Well, hello animators, motion artists and Moho enthusiasts. Today I'm going to introduce you to a new feature in Moho 13, the Bitmap engine. That's right, Bitmap engine in Moho, the elusive unicorn, it's real. And today I'm going to show you what it can do. So I'll run through a few of the brushes and their settings, and I'll make a simple scene to show how it works in practice. So let's start. Firstly, what you need to start drawing a bitmap is a bitmap layer. First of all, what we need to do is make a new image layer, and you'll see straight away that this new icon has appeared in the tools. And we have here in the right hand corner a bitmap color picker. That's right, a color picker that stays up all the time, so you can just choose a new color at any moment. So let's make a new image here. I choose 180p with a transparent background, and that's the default. I'll make this a sketch layer. Let's call it sketch. So create. You'll see here a brush selector. It has several default categories. Not this one here, but these one: draw, ink, paint, substance, and tone. Each one has several useful brushes, from a standard pencil. It has pressure sensitivity with size and opacity, and several other, including pastels and various other effects. So these are all the dry media, like pastels and pencils. Very good for drawing. So let's go to ink. We have all sorts of stuff. We've got very inky ones with running ink. We've got rough ink. We've got calligraphy style nibs and tips, and my favorite here, the samurai, which is very good for all sorts of painty and inky styles. You'll see it's set to darken here, as we have lots of different painting modes. Normal, as you see. We have multiply, as you know, that one, and all the way through we've got overlay, and we've got even draw behind, which is very useful. Erase, even more useful, and it uses the same brush to erase. We also have an eraser, by the way, which has various settings of hardness. There's the inks. Let's have a look. We've got painting, we've got various effects, a glazy one here. You'll see as I lower the opacity, the canvas effect shows through more and more. We've got all sorts of stuff here. Anything from a leafy effect here, to strange leathery looking effects. Grassy or hairy. Reptilian. And one of my favorites, the wallaby. Do it that way, like this. Yes. And finally we've got the tone, which is a bunch of things for cross hatching. We've got tone, Spideyverse type of effects, and some really great airbrushy effects, and the ever necessary sponge, which is going to be very useful in the pursuit of cartoony backgrounds. Okay, so let's get on with something, and I'll just start drawing and see what we can come up with here. I'm going to use Archetype here, which I think is a very good standard pencil. I'll put it to a grey, and I'll just start sketching. I'm going to do a cheeky character here with a grin. And you'll see how responsive the tool is. I'll try and show you how it all works as I sketch this out. The advantages and all the different things you can use. Okay, so what's this character doing? He's plotting something. Oh, let's make this arm right. Okay. And here's the eraser, as you see, very useful. You just I like to attach the eraser to my pen button, the front one, and use the second button for the right click, if you have such a thing. Okay, so that's enough for the pencil, I think. What's this character? Okay. Let's move him over here a little bit, I think. Alright, so now let's make another layer. Let's do an ink layer, and I'll show you how that can work. Create. I like to put the ink layer, and let's choose an ink tool here. I'm going to use this hostile ink because it has a lot of variation in it, and it's kind of rough and chunky. Alright, so I like to put it underneath the sketch layer, and I'll reduce this opacity of this layer here to 50 pi. Okay, did that do anything? That was the blur. 50. There we go. If I put the ink on top or underneath, here we go. So let's keep going with this, see if I can get it done quickly enough. So a lot of people have wanted Bitmap tool in Moho for a very long time, and myself included. It'll be very, very good for frame-by-frame animation and backgrounds and textures. The old trick where you make a vector shape and texture behind it with a bitmap. Well, it's not an old trick. It's a new trick, and I think many will be doing that because you get those beautiful natural textures without having to go to an external program, and you can design and sketch and do all that stuff that you might previously have had to do in an external program natively in Moho, which really is making it much more of a one-stop shop than it ever was. So I'm just sketching this stuff in, and I might put this one on a new layer. Okay, for the tail, because I might animate that later. Okay, so let's make a new one, and because it's only going to fill up, oh no, I'll just do that. I'll call it the tail ink, and I'll put this in a group. Same with the fox character. Alright, so we've a sketch, we've got some ink, got a tail, and let's put that in. So try not to waste too much time on this process. Okay, so first of all, let's add some color now. And I'll show you some of these other useful features. So first of all, how good is this picker? It's great. I've been wanting this for ages. We still have access to the swatches and the other picker, but this only works for vector. When you open and close it here, you can still do that. So I'll just go ahead and let's pick this color here. And what I'll do is fill this whole character in, and I'll show you some of the other tricks available to us that you'll be familiar with, like the bucket, which I have yet to have mentioned, and the lock transparency feature, which is very, very useful. Let's do this for a start. So now that's locked, the color, I can go to another color and start painting in the highlights here. I already prepared this palette, so I don't have to waste too much time choosing colors for you on the fly, which could get rather boring. To pick a color from an image as a palette. As we're trying stuff here, let's do it. Okay, here's some colors that I think will be useful. So I'll go back to the layer that I need to be coloring, and here we go. So here's a very useful thing. So I'll quickly color this in, and you can see that it's only coloring in the areas that I've already painted because I'm using the lock transparency feature. Now this particular brush has a texture on it, so we could change to another one now for coloring. In fact, as we've got such a rough edge, let's choose something else like this Lost Hog, and put a more painty edge along it here. Okay. Let's just go to this one. I don't know what it'll do. That's okay. So here's a good time to show you how to change a brush. Here's the brush manager. We have all the categories and we can change a brush. The default ones are locked down, but if I want to change it, all I have to do is press duplicate, and now it's not grayed out anymore, and I can change the pressure curve on it. Okay, so we have velocity curves as well, and you'll see how that works. Let me try it. So let's not get too bogged down in the detail, and I'll just run through these. So and just start shading that one in. The eye second. Alright. Now he's a fox, and they are normally have black, don't they? So black. Let's go to grey. You can still see the lines then. Of course, we have other brushes we can use, like I showed you. We have the substance. So if I was to go to, say, the wallaby brush, start painting with that one. Let's put them a little bit bigger, and you'll see a very hairy looking effect going on there. It's quite effective. For that, pick another color, bit of detail. Okay. Alright, let's get on with this. I should also paint that tail in quickly. Let's do all this on the one layer, because I'll animate this later. So I'll take the lock transparency off, and I'll go to draw behind, and we'll see what we can do here. So we need a grey. First of all, we need a light thing on the light. Let's go to, I like this hostile link. Put it on draw behind as a highlight. And a dark color here. Alright. Hopefully later on we'll get to animate that. If I run out of time, what I'll do is perhaps make a second video. I'll try and get it all done here. Alright. Let's just do this a bit more. Lock transparency. That's better. And then draw ink. Go to a very, very simple color here, and then I'll give that an exponential curve again. Save. There's no texture on this one, it's purely a fill. Shift to get that to work. And let's give it a highlight here. Oh, he's actually starting to look like something. Okay. Alright, so there's our mischievous fox. Oh, and let's give him a nose, colour in his nose. A highlight. Alright, so let's have a look at some more of these textures in the background. Shall we? I'll just clean this up a little bit here. Shall I? Okay. let's move on. So, looking at a background. Let's quickly do it in and you'll see some of these other textures, brushes at work. What I like to do is not use too much of a green. So blue greens are much better than a green. Let's do a couple of hills here. This hostile ink is great for as a really big brush. It's got a very loose shape to it. It's chunky and kind of a bit random. Put in a little barn, because he's a fox at the farmyard. Tree. Just block some stuff in first. This is where I can show you the fill function. So let's quickly get this all blocked out. I should have done this part first. Okay, this is where this randomness of this brush really comes in handy. So it's doing those shapes for me. And if you want to change a color, that's when the bucket function really starts to come in handy. Shadow here. So say I wasn't to like that shadow, I can get the bucket and just change it like that. There's a tolerance, so you can go and fill all of that or that, and there you go. There's an opacity factor to it, which is very useful. Let's keep going, get this thing knocked out. Let's make some details on the barn. We're almost ready to start animating. Actually, let's do some work with the sponge. Alright, so let's put some chickens in the paddock. Let's put them on another layer. Let's just make one layer for one chicken. Just do one. They're triangles, aren't they? That's all they are. Do some more chickens. And one more. Oh, actually, let's put a fence around this barn, because what I think's happened is that we've got one chicken who's got out. I think this is where you do get saturated, is when little highlights showing up, because we want to draw attention to this area where we have this guy. Who's just realized what's going on. This chicken is in a lot of trouble. Alright, let's just quickly get some of these effects on it. Let's go to a sponge, put it up really big. Knock some texture into the foreground. This is what we want. This is why we have bitmap brushes for all this good stuff here. Let's try this leafage effect here. And that's pretty much what we need for this part of the process. I think I'll leave the frame by frame for the moment. We might come back to that in another video. So if you'd really like to see some frame by frame done on this file, I'll make another vid. So leave a message in the comments, and we'll see if we can get that done. And I'll show you what that all looks like. So thanks very much for tuning in, and I really hope you enjoy the new Bitmap feature. And if you want to try it out, you can download the trial, or you can upgrade. I'll leave the links down below. Thanks for watching, and catch you later. Bye.